Bonjour mesdames et messieurs, and welcome to the Zion National Park. Bonjour mesdames et messieurs, my name is Sir Germany. I am a French photographer from the beautiful, the amazing, the romantic city of Paris, France. But right now I'm in a Zion National Park. I'm traveling into different national parks and I want to share with you some of the photos that I got and some of the experience that I got. Now, do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking here. And if you want to get the raw files that I'm going to give you for free, so all you have to do is sign up to my daily newsletter. You log in. Once you're logged in, the link that's below this YouTube video will work and will give you the raw files, but only if you're logged into PhotoSearch. All right, mesdames et messieurs, so come with me in the Zion National Park. Okay, so I'm back in front of my computer. I have imported all the photos and I'm going to show you my whole workflow on doing this. I'm not going to show you all the photos I retouched because there's a lot, but you know the general idea. So first I import everything and I convert as DNG as I import because it takes less space on my hard drive. Right now I'm working in a hotel on my MacBook Pro, so I usually create a folder on my desktop with like a special, that's where I put all the photos, and then I will copy them on my hard drive when I get home. But I like to retouch on the go to see if what I got is good or not. So usually what I do is I go through all my photos one by one, and every time I find a photo or a composition that I like, I give it like a 1. For example, well, this is the end result, but like if I would like this photo, for example, I would give it a 1. One thing that I do that I showed you during the day, when there is some nice clouds, I put an ND filter on and I try to get a lone exposure just to see if it's going to give something or bring something to the table. Sometimes it does, like you see here, it gives like a bit of a lone exposure. Sometimes it does not, because the final photo that I decided to retouch was the non-ND filter photo. So it doesn't always bring something to the table. But one thing I like to do, and usually when I go to a beautiful place like the Zion National Park, and when there is nice clouds, I still take photos in the afternoon. And I know that these photos I will only use for black and white. I usually don't do color photo, and that's just me, when it's not sunset or sunrise. But when there's nice clouds, I do shoot because I want to, I want to have this dramatic look, and you can really have it like this one, for example, when you have clouds. If you only have a blue sky, then you're in trouble because you eventually will get something nice, sunrise or sunset. So I'm going to put here a star of 1 so you see my first selection. So what I do is every time I see a photo that I think could be something, I give it a 1. But if I think it's really awesome, I give it a 2. So first what I do is I go through everything, I give a 1 to everything, then I filter with 1, so I only have photos with 1, and then I do a second pass, only the one with 2s, and then I give it 2. So let me show you some of the ones that I consider that can be retouched. So that's one that I think that can be cool. This, the next one is a panel that we're going to be doing. So because this is a panel mid-afternoon, and I'm going to follow the workflow. So this one has nice clouds. When you got a blue sky like this, I use a polarizer filter to get a blue sky. That should give us a nice panorama that we will use as a black and white. Actually, why don't we do that? So I'm going to select all these photos. I'm going to do like right click, photo merge, panorama, and then I've done many tutorials on how to do panoramas in Lightroom CC. It's really what I use 90% of the time now. I used to use a lot auto pano, but now I find that Lightroom does really a good job. So spherical, auto crop, I'm good. I click on merge, but I've already done it, so it's here to save some time. Boom. And this one I'm ready. Oh, the auto crop didn't work on this one because I reset it. So constraint to image, close. So that's the auto crop. This one I'm gonna make a black and white because it's the colors are kind of boring, you know, and but the clouds are amazing. So what I usually do is I go right away to black and white, and I take this little tool here and I click on the sky that's blue and I drag it down, okay, to make this the sky blue even darker. Then I usually go up and play with the white balance to make it even darker. You know, if you play around to get something that I like, I'm going to add some blue. So because the blues are getting dark, that's kind of working. And then I can start doing my regular workflow, which is to open up the shadows, bring down the highlights, do the white. This one I want to do some good whites, do the black. I'm going to add some contrast. It's already looking kind of cool. I'm going to boost the exposure maybe of the overall photo. And on this one, I think I want to do a little gradient here at the bottom because there is my shadow here. I'm going to go to exposure. Okay, and I'm going to make this a little darker. So we have a little bit of a gradient to force the viewer into the photo. And I might just do another gradient here on top just to have a bit of dark on top and on the bottom so that people will look inside. Okay, I'm going to do a little minus clarity to get a bit more natural look. And I think I'm going to maybe make it a little darker like this. Okay, and if I want to go fast, what I do is I take a brush. I make sure that my brush, I go to exposure. I make sure that my brush is flow and density around 70. And I can just brush and bring back a bit of light where I want to. First, you know, because I think it's a bit dark here on the mountains. Maybe here a little bit. And if you think it's too, I always overdo it first and then I back it down. And I want to do something in the middle. So I want people to look in the middle of the photo. So I'm going to take a radial filter. Here I'm going to invert the mask. I'm going to feather it. And I'm going to make it a little bit brighter. And I'm going to do a minus clarity in the same time. Because I don't like when there is too much details in the sky on the clouds. Okay, something like that. And maybe even more contrast to make it more dramatic. Backslash key to show the before and the after. Before, after. Cool black and white. So that's something that I really do. I like to do black and white during the afternoon. Okay? So this way I've done a few photos that I'm going to show you. For example, that with this sort of same techniques. Now on this ones, I also use the Ansel Adams presets. Ansel Adams presets, if you just type Search Remedy Ansel Adams on YouTube, you will get them. And so I did this photo, and I think the one that's right after, yeah, and this photo, so same thing. So, you know, that's like afternoon photo. I'm just getting warmed up before the sunset. I was really lucky that day because it was some cool sunshine and some cool clouds. So let's carry on. And I'm gonna filter with 2. Oh, usually I forgot to tell you something. When I retouch a photo that I like, I give it a 3. So 1 star is like, oh, it might be something. 2 star is like, ooh, this is really good. And 3 star, I mean, it's done. So this is a 3 star. This is a 3 star. This is a 3 star. And I'm actually going to add a bit of contrast even more. Yeah, I'm crazy about contrast. Okay, now we come to this photo. So this photo is again a panorama. Same thing, that it's the same workflow that I just showed you. It was just, it's the entrance of the Zion National Park, what they call the Junction Bridge. It's really cool. So let's, I'm going to constrain to image, and I'm going to click here, enter, so that we have a crop. And this one has some color. It's just that when you shoot very neutral, what happens is that you lose a lot of the colors. But with the when you shoot with the raw files, you lose a lot of colors. What's funny is every time that my wife is next to me and she takes an iPhone photo, it looks awesome on the iPhone and it looks really bad on my Sony, just because on her iPhone it's fully retouched, all the saturation, the contrast, everything has been done. On raw files you have to do it in Lightroom. So I'm going to open up the shadows, which I just did, bring on the highlights. I'm going to do my white and my black. Now the white balance is totally off on this one. So I'm going to go, this was really a sunset. Sunset, I really go to shade, and I'm going to add a lot of magenta because that's my signature, magenta. And I'm going to go even more crazy on this one. I'm going to go all crazy. I'm going to add a bit of vibrance, and I'm going to add a bit of saturation. And usually what I do on sunset photos is I go to my hue, and I sometimes play around with the colors, because there was really like a sunset feeling that I feel is lost and needs to be gotten back. So I click on hue, and I'm click here around the sunset. As you go up, it goes more toward the yellows. As you go down, it goes a little more toward the reds. I kind of like that. Usually I go to saturation and add even more, a little bit of saturation on the reds, the orange, and the yellow. Something like this. So it's already, look at this, before. Oops, now that was how I retouched it before. Actually, let me show this to you. I'm going to take this one and I'm going to reset it so I can show you the before and after, because I trained before doing this video. So that's where we are. That's how we were before, and that's how we are now. It's already a big change. Now, one thing I don't like about this photo is really how the sky is here. You see like this sort of clouds. I don't like when there is dark on the clouds, and I think they are too defined. So usually what I do is I take a radial circle that of course I'm going to invert, feather, and on this one I'm just going to add a little bit of exposure, make it a bit brighter around the sun, add a bit of yellow and orange, but minus clarity, just so that to diffuse the sky even more, something like this, and make it more interesting, maybe not that bright. Voila. It kind of spilled over on the mountains. If you don't like that it spills over on something, you can just take a brush, hold on the in this case, hold on the Alt key on your keyboard. It becomes a minus, and then just make sure here that your flow is at 50% and auto mask is on. And this way, with auto mask on, I can just brush over the mountains. And now my radial filter only is on the sky here. Okay, I want to do a bit of dodge and burn, so I'm going to take a brush, boost the exposure. I want to put more light toward the river. I'm overdoing it first, maybe here just a little bit of light, here on this one a little bit of light, maybe here a little bit, just to break the tones, make it more interesting, and then I lower the value so that it's not so visible. When I see people doing something like this, I'm like, too much. You have to find the right value, something like this. And voila, and maybe add a bit of overall contrast. Maybe make it a little bit brighter. And voila, check it out. So that's the before, and that's the after. Okay, so using this type of techniques, I did this photo, and then I did this photo, which is the same one but more zoomed in. Exact same techniques. Then I did this photo, which was the other side. When you're sitting in the Zion National Park on the on the junction bridge, and you look behind you. Now on this one, this is the raw file. You can't see it, but it was a lot of red in the sky. So I really got it back there. The only difference that I did here is I did a little graded filter where I added some magenta even it. But I really like it. And I also did this one with the same technique. Now, let me show you something that I didn't show you before. I'm going to go back to library. I'm going to show day 2. So actually, to go faster, when you're lost in your library, just right click and go to folder in library. And I'm going to show you day 2. There's one specific photo I want to show you that I did on day 2. That's, I think, is pretty cool. And that's this one. Okay, this is the it's called the Canyon Overlook. You have to, when you come to the park at the Junction Bridge, you take a right, and then you go up through a tunnel. You go up the mountains, and then you go through a tunnel. Right after the tunnel, there's a parking, and you'll see there's a little hike there. It's a beautiful hike, a little scary, but beautiful. Not that scary. It looks scary, but it's not scary. It's a bit long, and then you come to this place. Now, I arrived at this place, and there was like interesting sky. This is very neutral, but I want to get the best out of it. Now, this was the sun was behind the mountain, so we really had a situation of being against the sun. So I decided to bracket it 3 photos. Then I'm going to select all 3 photos, right-click, and photo merge HDR. I like to use the Lightroom HDR for very natural type of process, just to get back a little bit more of information, just a little bit more. And so usually what I do is I just leave auto align on, deghost, deghosting amount down, and I just click on merge. Now I've already done it, and here is the HDR. All right, so now the HDR has just a lot more information. Check this out. When I'm going to open up the shadows, I can open up the shadows and get a lot of information there with no noise. Bring down the highlights. I'm going to do my black. I'm going to do my white, and I want to give it. It was a sunset. I'm losing all the colors here. There was a little bit more pink. Not that much. I'm going to cheat on this one a little bit. Actually, a lot. I'm going to go to shade, and I'm going to add some magenta, and I'm going to add some vibrance, and I'm going to add some saturation, just to make it pop, baby. Make it pop. And then I'm going to add some contrast. Now, the sky is still too bright, but I know I've got a lot of dynamic range, so I can take a graded filter, and I can just, make it go down here, lower the exposure. We have a little bit of issue here of vignetting. Oops, sorry. That's fine. We can correct that. And, well, actually, I wanted to crop some of the sky, so that's going to take care of a lot of the vignetting that's there. Okay, it's already more interesting. It's already there, a little bit more there. On this one, I might add a bit of clarity overall, just a little bit, because I can and I want to. And I'm going to do my usual workflow, add a bit of saturation in the warm, just the 3 first ones, just to make it pop, because it's the red rugs after all. There's a lot of reds everywhere. And I want to do something about the sky, so I'm going to do a graded filter on the sky here. I'm going to invert it as usual, feather it. I'm going fast, but you can watch this video over and over. Okay, I'm going to make it a little brighter. I'm going to diffuse the sky. I don't want to have an HDR look in my clouds. And I'm going to add, and don't tell anyone, a bit of magenta and warmth in the sky. Maybe not that much, but a little bit. A little bit of warmth in the sky, mesdames et messieurs. Okay. Also, this rock was much more lead. So, you know what? I'm going to take this. I'm going to right-click. I'm going to duplicate it. And I'm going to put it here. I want to make the top of that rock, because I remember it was much more lead. It was much more bright here in real life. Kind of lost that in the raw file. And voila, so you see how you can really create an atmosphere. And yes, I think I'm going to do another graded filter just for the top of the sky to make it darker, to close the photo even more. Voila. And maybe, no, I'm not going to do one at the back. So something like this I kind of like. Okay, then you can make it darker or brighter. I think I'm going to make it a bit like this. Yeah. And voila. So that's the photo. Let me show you the before. Oops. Okay, so that's the before. That's the after. Before, after. Pretty crazy. So you can do a lot. But on one thing I need to warn you about. And this is what I'm going to give you some of the raw files. This technique of adding magenta and all these things work if there is a bit of color present. You can enhance it. But if you take a day photo where there is no colors at all, you will get funky results. This worked because there was truly a lot of reds in the sky. You don't see it in the original raw file. It's not there, but it is there in a way. It's just because the raw file is so neutral. And also at the end, that's another version that I did. much less red, and I added even the moon in it, just because I can, and it was fun. That I'll show you in another episode. So voilà, that was fast, that was brief, that was intense, but this is Zion National Park, mesdames et messieurs. If you've never been, it's breathtaking. It's amazing. It's gonna blow your mind. You gotta go there, mesdames et messieurs. I will see you in another episode.